Yes, and it is starting now. We saw that rain, freezing rain, transition over to snow in the metro. We're still under that blizzard warning, west central, southwestern Minnesota through Sunday morning, as well as winter storm warning for us here in the metro, south central Minnesota, and portions of southeastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin. So again, we did see a bit of everything today, from high winds, damaging winds, southwestern Minnesota, sleet, rain heavy at times, and then transitioning over to snow. Visibility will be poor, it will be slick, so it's best to just stay indoors if you can, if you do not need to travel.
Zumbro 2018 is a race to remember.
5 minutes here. I'm going to tell you a couple of things, and then we're going to get you on your way. The course is in tough condition for us on our ATVs and things like that too, so just make the right decision for yourself.
John Storkamp gave the pre-race briefing under the shelter, so we wouldn't have to be out in the rain. He advised crew to just stay at the start-finish because the trails were really getting rough and it would be tough going. In case you're not familiar with Zumbro, it is a 6-loop, 100-mile race. That being said, 3 loops for the 50 and 1 for the 17. It's held in the Richard J. Dorr Memorial Hardwood State Forest in southeastern Minnesota. It is not easy to get to. There's no cell service and it is very remote.
Zumbro is a special place to me. It always will be. This year's Zumbro was like no other Zumbro before it. The hype going into this year's running of the race reached unprecedented levels, with all of the chatter starting a few weeks out. The weather this year made each loop around the Zumbro River Hills a story in itself. The elements, the course, were constantly morphing into an ever-changing, truly unique version of itself every few hours.
Friday morning started with a chill in the air and a light drizzle. The trail was in decent condition to start, but the added moisture, you could tell, was going to take its toll. Midday Friday, the rain continued, getting harder and harder, which really made the trails a soupy mess. Friday afternoon, and the rain stopped. And I was thinking, well, this might be good. But it was an eerie calm in the air. So eerie, it made me wonder, what's next? I saw a flash of lightning and heard the thunder. Storm clouds had set in, even though we couldn't see them. The storm was here. It only thunderstormed for a little bit, and then it turned to snow. In the dark, the snow was falling and the wind was whipping. At times, the wind would gust up to what I had to think was at least 60 miles an hour by the way it hit my face. As the sun rose, it produced a beautiful winter wonderland with several inches of snow on the trees. It was beautiful to look at. As Saturday continued, the beautiful snow turned to mini ice pellets and pelted the ground, making the trails slick. What had once been mushy mud was now close to a skating rink.
So challenges over the weekend, there are many with the weather and trail conditions. I think my biggest was I had to stay present with myself. I had to make sure I was warm enough, cool enough. I had to make sure I was fueling properly, but it just took a lot of focus just to stay with myself and not duck my head into my turtle shell I usually go to. You're gonna hit the lows, and when you hit the lows, you have to battle through, and I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And I took it loop by loop, kind of the countdown. I'm like, okay, 2 left, you can do this, 3 left. Just, it never occurred to me that I couldn't make it, or I wanted to quit, or yeah, wet, cold feet, they'd warm up. I think hip flexors and core were taking a beating because of having to lift out of the mud, you know, forcefully lift out of the mud in places. And I was feeling that after the 4th lap. You could tell the mud was just sucking the energy from you. And for the 6th loop, made me put all kinds of clothes on, which I'm glad they did. I was just ready to go and get it done. So this guy is what fueled me to my finish. He's what kept me going the whole time. It kind of goes back to a story last fall. We went to my parents for Thanksgiving, and we went to the pool, and 4 boys, they all had to do swim tests to go on the big jungle gym thing they had there. And not swimming a whole lot, I wasn't sure he could pass his swimming test, but he insisted and insisted, and finally I said, okay, let's do it. And he jumped in that pool, and he tread water for a minute, and he swam that whole lap and got to the end. And of course I was super proud, but he was right when he got out. He's like, and you doubted me, Dad. And I figured out I'd been preparing him for failure instead of success. And so the whole run, the whole time, I just kept thinking about that. And if you want something bad enough, you just keep continuing on, push on, and you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
As far as the mental aspect and being out there in the elements, I think it really actually started from when I was a child. Like, my dad would always say, Stephanie, you're a Johnson. Johnsons don't quit. And that's kind of just a life lesson I guess I've taken with me in everything I do. During the race, I think about all the people that can't run. You do it for them, and you do it for the people that want to be there. I also do it for my kids, like, hopefully setting a good example for them of finishing what you start.
I've had success and failure at Zumbro. I've learned far more about myself with my setbacks than I ever have with any of my accomplishments I've achieved. Conditions and circumstances in any ultra, like in life, are always changing. You have to find a way to adjust and fight through in whatever you are doing, whatever course you're on.
For me to just prove this, yeah, you'll see that's just fuel. For me to just do this, yeah, you'll see.
I listened to the Susan Donnelly podcast and her thing about not quitting until either they tell you can't go any further medically or they cut you off. Until somebody tells me I'm not going any further, I'm going to keep going.